Welcome once again to the False Prophet channel where we get Islam and the Prophet of Islam busted. In tonight's segment, we will be discussing the incident in the cave of Hira when Muhammad was supposedly visited by the angel Gabriel, and we will break down why that is a lie and it's a fabrication and it's a false claim that Muslims swear by, but nowhere in Islam can a Muslim show you where Jibril formally introduced himself to Muhammad in the cave of Hira. And once again, I was invited to the Kenny Bomer show where we got them busted again. So without any further talking about it, I'm about to hit play and let you see for yourself. And after you see my part on the show, we'll go into what I was speaking about. Because like always, this show is rigged. They are cowards. They don't let me speak because they already know what I'm bringing to the table. But it's okay because every time I appear on this show, I'm just going to use them as a prop. Because basically, my channel exposes Islam. I never go on the Kenny Bomer show to convince them of anything because they are Muslims. Their eyes are blinded. So it will take God himself to open up their eyes. So let's hit play and I'm gonna sit back and you just listen to Brother Jacob live on the Kenny Bomer show.
He's not in his house with a mask on. Brother.
As you see me, I'm the one with the bandana around my face. They ask me why do I wear a bandana? Because number one, I don't want my face shown because of my job and everything. And how the world is set up now, if you say anything about Islam, especially on YouTube, they will, basically blackball you. And how the world is set up, everything is like liberal. So if your face is shown saying anything about Islam, just like if you say anything about the homosexual community, you can be basically ostracized from making money. So Islam is one of those type of, things in society now that is protected because it's evil. And anything that's evil in society is protected. So you can't say anything about Islam without, putting yourself in danger of receiving a strike or something, losing your job. But anyway, let's get right into it.
Kareem, you have a mask on, a Muslim brother. I don't have a mask on.
It's strange that people would wear masks because if they're speaking the truth, don't they want the truth to be known, and don't they want to be associated with being a person of truth?
He said it's strange somebody would wear a mask, but in Mecca right now, they cleared out Mecca because of the coronavirus, and they are wearing masks in Mecca. Muslim women, they wear a mask, but he said it's strange. Even in the Quran, it says that Allah speaks behind a veil. You see how they are hypocritical? They are very inconsistent with everything that they say or do. But
especially if you're going to be an asset in your community. So it's
well,
strange.
He might have somebody in the house that has corona.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
And as you see, every time you go on this show, they always got to make a joke about something because how Muslims do, like these deceitful Muslims like Kenny Bomer and the guy in the corner, the fake Muslim with the little kufi on his head. What they do, they try to make jokes and they try to divert anyone from speaking about a hardcore issue. And when I come on the show, they are very fearful. That's why they will never, I repeat, they would never debate me in a real debate where there is no cutting in to what I'm saying every 5 minutes, every 30 seconds, hitting mute. They would never debate me in a real, live, constructed debate because they know that they would get demolished.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So earlier, Kareem, I was speaking earlier, and I told you about nowhere in the Hadith does it mention that Muhammad was introduced. Nowhere does it say that Gabriel introduced himself formally to Muhammad. And the word used is namas, which means is nowhere in the Hadith that says an angel came and saw Muhammad in the cave. And I can read
your latest show is going to be called Namus and Muhammad in the cave.
And what
right?
Namus means, it means that the
He doesn't even say hi or anything. He goes right into it. That's how the show is going to start.
You don't need to fake because you're not supposed.
So basically, as I'm speaking, the guy in the upper right-hand corner with the little kufi on his head, this guy's name is Kareem, okay? He's just a jokester. He's not a real Muslim because, he threw Jalalain under the bus. He said he doesn't accept the tafsir of Jalalain when I got him busted on a point that I made on a previous show. He was busted so severely that he had to throw Jalalain under the bus. And you can go back and check my other video I did when I got him busted the last time. So nothing that he says is trustworthy anyway. I've gotten him busted plenty of times. As you see, he is making mockery because he can't deal with what I'm saying. What I was saying was, nowhere in the Hadith does it say where Gabriel formally introduced himself to Muhammad. He heard exactly what I said, and he knows that he doesn't have an answer, and he knows that he cannot manifest a reference. And this shows how inconsistent Muslims are. Because one of the things that they always say to Christians, they'll say, show us where Jesus says, undoubtedly, clear, that I am God, worship me. But when you hold them up to their own standards, they fail. As you see, I'm asking them a question, and he's creating mockery because he doesn't have an answer.
The greeting of peace. We all know that your Hadith says that if you see Jews or Christians, to force them to the narrowest part of the road. So we're not going to sit and play these little hi and hello games. We're not going to play the Takia game. Let's just get to business. And I don't have time to pretend like I'm your friend. I am an enemy of Islam. I am a non-Muslim. And you are the follower of Satan, a false god. So we're not friends until you give over your life to the one true Savior, Jesus Christ. So let's not play these games.
So as you see, let's see if I can rewind it back a little bit. As you see, I was telling him, he was like, I come on the show, I don't say hey or hello, but he is being deceitful. He's being a little liar. He's being a little Takia Abdul because he knows, just like I know, that his prophet said that if you see a Jew and a Christian in the street, that you are supposed to force them to the narrowest part of the road. He also knows that his prophet said you do not supposed to give the salutation of peace to a to a non-Muslim. In other words, you don't supposed to be the first to say hi or hello to a Jew and a Christian. He knows this. So I was telling him, there's no need to play these little games because I know that you're not my friend, because he also knows that his Quran says you do not take Jews and Christians as friends. He also knows that his Quran says that you can smile in their face, but hate them in your heart. He knows these things. So his little game doesn't work with me. We can see right through this little Takia boy, Kenny Bomer, and the Kareem No Dream loser. But let's get right into it. Let's get right back into it.
There's no idea from a hole in the wall.
Look at him. He looks literally insane over there.
Let him go.
I mean, literally. You sound insane. You look insane. I mean,
I'm not sure why Jesus isn't enough to protect him from whatever he hears by having his face covered. Who's taught him that? CP? You following CP in that regard, in that cowardly regard? Not saying you're a coward, but I think the act is rather cowardly.
You hear this guy, he's talking about Christian Prince. This guy, Kareem, claims he knows Arabic. I guarantee you this guy will never call Christian Prince because he know he would get embarrassed. If he tried to bring his Arabic, talking about he knows Arabic, to Christian Prince, he would get embarrassed. Who is this guy to even bring up the name of Christian Prince? This guy is a coward.
For all people of God, why are you fearful? We should be the one fearful.
Ronnie Pena, a question, and pay close attention, Devin. Ronnie Pena, have there been times that you've come into the show
by a false angel? He had no way.
You following CP in that regard, in that cowardly regard? Not saying you're a coward.
Yes.
Let Danny in the room is down to Muhammad, the 631
engaged in some other activities?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Now, first of all, let's follow some protocol. I put my question out first. You're not going to skip my question, okay? By a false angel. He had no way of telling you over me.
The question again is, where is the corpse?
Because in another hadith, it says the correct word.
Oh, one day it'll be good.
Can you hear me?
He's not in his house with the.
Okay, we about to start over, and we're going to play it from right here. This is when I first come in. All right, here we go.
A mask on. Brother Kareem, you have a mask on, a Muslim brother. I don't have a mask on.
It's strange that people would wear masks because if they're speaking the truth, don't they want the truth to be known, and don't they want to be associated with being a person of truth, especially if you're going to be an asset in your community. So it's
well,
strange.
He might have somebody in the house that has corona.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So earlier, Kareem, I was speaking earlier, and I told you about nowhere in the hadith does it mention that Muhammad was introduced. Nowhere does it say that Gabriel introduced himself formally to Muhammad. And the word used is namas, which means is nowhere in the hadith that says an angel came and saw Muhammad in the cave. And I can read
your latest show is going to be called Namus and Muhammad in the cave.
And what
right?
Namus means, it means that the
He doesn't even say hi or anything. He goes right into it. That's how the show is going to start.
You don't need the fake because you're not supposed to give Christians the greeting of peace. We all know that your hadith says that if you see Jews or Christians, to force them to the narrowest part of the road. So we're not going to sit and play these little hi and hello games. We're not going to play the Takia game. Let's just get to business. And I don't have time to pretend like I'm your friend. I am an enemy of Islam. I am a non-Muslim. And you are the follower of Satan, a false god. So we're not friends until you give over your life to the one true Savior, Jesus Christ. So let's not play these games. That's what I was saying.
You try to make it out to appear as if you know our hadith so much, right? So when a corpse of a Jew came by Prophet.
Now you hear the other Abdul, he didn't show his face. He's hidden. He started speaking because they felt the pressure that I was starting to apply on them. And the way I approach them on their channel, I come straight forward. I don't give them no time to play games, to use mockery, to use diversion tactics. I'm coming straight forward. And this is what the Muslim fears. They don't like it when you know the hadiths. They don't like it when you use logic, because they know that Islam is not based upon a strong foundation. You know, from the cave of Hira visitation, there was no formal introduction. Like, that means that the very Quran is a da'if hadith. It's a weak narration because the very first narrator did not introduce himself. So they don't even know who the first narrator of the Quran is. Not only that, everything dealing with Islam, the early foundations, is coming from Muhammad. It's no eyewitnesses. It's just a single report of a man. Nobody is around when all of this stuff is taking place. No one is around except him when he supposedly went upon his night journey. They don't have no evidence. When you read the Bible, there is plenty of evidence. There is historical evidence about the crucifixion of Jesus. There is 4 gospels about the life of Jesus. But when it comes to the Quran, it's just Muhammad. He's in a cave by himself. No witnesses. Him alone on the night journey. No witnesses. It's just the word of this single man.
So when a corpse of a Jew went by the Prophet Muhammad in a famous hadith, what did the Prophet do? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. When the corpse of a Jew was being carried in front of him, what did the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam do in that hadith? Do you know?
Let me unmute him. Do you know the answer to that, David?
What was the question? He's talking over me.
The question again is, when the corpse of a Jew was being carried before the Prophet Muhammad, in front of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what did the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam do in this famous hadith? Most Muslims know this hadith. Since you know the hadith so much, and you think that hadith teaches us to be anti-Semitic, essentially. So in this hadith, when that
who am I speaking to? Who am I speaking to? Who is speaking to me?
Ibn Anwar.
Is it who?
Ibn Anwar.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, let's follow some protocol. I put my question out first. You're not going to skip my question, okay? I said, show me where Gabriel introduced himself to Muhammad, and in the hadith, it says nothing about angel. It says namus. Now, how could the laws of Moses be passed down to Muhammad? The 631 laws, statutes, and commandments, how was the namus passed down to Muhammad in a cave when the namus, the laws of Moses, were for the Jews? Busted. That don't even make sense. And nowhere in the hadith does it says that an angel. What they did, they mistranslated it as angel, but they got themselves busted because in another hadith, it says the correct word, namus. They forgot to do taqiyya in one of the hadiths, but in another one, they put angel. Nowhere does it say that an angel visited Muhammad in a cave. No, Gabriel never introduced himself to Muhammad. And besides that, Muhammad had no way of knowing a real Gabriel from a false Gabriel, because there was an incident that happened when he was tricked, so-called, by a false Gabriel. So how would he know a real Gabriel from a false Gabriel? That means you cannot be sure about anything you believe in, because if your prophet was tricked by a false Gabriel, then what is the evidence that any of what you read in the Quran is real? Because what was his way of telling a real Gabriel from a false Gabriel? busted. He has no way. You know why he don't have a way? Because he didn't have the Holy Spirit in him, and he didn't have the spirit of discernment in him. And that's why the Bible tells us in Proverbs that we should not lean to our own understanding. He was trying to lean by his own understanding, and that's why he got deceived by a false angel. He had no way of telling a real Gabriel. You can do the sock puppet.
Okay, you sound like.
You see how he muted me? I was going in hard. I was going in heavy. And the other guy, he started asking me a question that had nothing to do with the question that I had asked. And they was trying to skip over the question that I had asked. And that's why I said that there has to be order and protocol, because the Bible says, I follow the teachings of the Bible. And the Bible says, do everything decently and in order. But as Muslims, I guess they don't understand order because they are very chaotic on their panel, just like their Quran. You know, their Quran is not even in order, in the order of the revelations that Muhammad received the Quran. Muslims took it upon themselves to place the Quran, so-called revelations of Muhammad, in a particular order, but really that's out of order because the order that Muhammad received the revelations are not in the order that he received them. They don't place them in the Quran in that same order. They took it upon themselves to rearrange the revelations in whichever way they wanted to do it. So they don't believe in order, but I believe in order. I don't believe in chaos. If I'm on a panel, I expect the people to be mature, answer the question, stop running, Kenny, stop doing the sock puppet hand. None of that is going to get me off of what I'm saying. It's not going to shake me up. It's not going to make me forget what I'm saying. This is called diversion tactics. You see the guy with the kufi on his head in the right-hand corner named Kareem. He didn't have any answers, so they got that little smirk on their face. It's the smirk of the devil because they are liars and they know what I was saying was the truth. And they had a fake so-called Christian, the guy that you see in the that's next to me with the red shirt. They claiming that he is a Christian. I know the spirit of a Christian when I see one. This guy is nothing but some Muslim pretending like he is a Christian. Because one thing about Muslims, they are permitted to lie for Islam. Their prophet gives them the green light to tell lies. They can practice taqiyya. They are liars. They are deceivers. You can't believe anything they say. And every point that I was making was 100% solid. And they know it. And that's why he muted me. But let's continue.
Islamic scholar, Devin, you've got all the answers, right? Where did you do all the studying? Where did you do all the studying? Where'd you do the? Did you go to Christian Prince Academy, Christian Prince University?
You can't really hear me because he's speaking and everything. But what I'm saying is, stop filibustering and answer my question. As everyone can see, they are filibustering and avoiding my question. And this is proof that these Muslims know that Gabriel did not introduce himself to Muhammad in the cave. So based upon how Muslims grade hadiths, that makes the Quran itself a weak hadith. In fact, it wouldn't even be graded as weak. It would be graded as rejected because the first narrator is unknown. There was no formal introduction. So the Quran itself is a rejected hadith based upon the Muslims' very own grading system.
Stop filibustering and answer my question. And let Danny in the room. Let Danny in the room. Let Danny in the room as well.
Hush.
Do you guys hear me? Yes or no?
Now we can hear you, Kareem. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. Let's just give the audience some context. He has a history of coming here, interrupting us, not saying hi, nothing Christian-like at all.
Now you see him doing the takia, saying I'm interrupting them when I was invited to the show. He's talking about say hi, but he knows that if he says hi to me, he would be breaking the commandment of his prophet, because he knows that his prophet says that you are not supposed to greet Christians and Jews first. You are not supposed to give them the greeting, or you're not supposed to say peace to them. He knows this. So he is a little hypocrite. The Kavrim, no dream, with the Kufi, he is a little hypocrite. And this little hypocrite would never debate me on any topic in a real debate where Kenny is not muting me every 5 seconds. But I'm over the muting part. I don't even care about that no more, because whenever I go on this show, I'm just making my points and then I'm out. Because like I said, I'm not trying to convince them.
And then he has an agenda because he's thinking of a show he's going to make on his channel. He comes abruptly, asks a question that's what his whole show will be about. And basically, he's just trying to benefit from us. Let's not let him do that. Don't fall into his question. Let's ask him the interest.
Too late. You already did it. Already got what I wanted. Only thing I wanted to see was, would you be able to answer my question? You can't answer my question because you know you don't have the answer. None of them have the answer. And you can look at that dude in the red shirt and tell he is a Muslim. They were claiming that this guy was a Christian. The guy that you see holding his nose right there next to me in a red shirt, you can look at him and tell he's a Muslim.
Same questions he should be answering. Number one, why was he acting racist?
That's an Abdul. That's an Abdul. You can look at him. If he was a Christian, he would be agreeing with what I'm saying. You can tell that's an Abdul.
And mocking on his channel Mustafa because he has an Indian accent, when he got mad in the same debate that I would dare to joke with him in the beginning. He says, who is he? He doesn't know me. And then in his channel, he's mocking a guy that he has no idea.
As you see, they still filibustering, and I'm like, stop filibustering, stop filibustering. As you see, the whole while they just going off topic because they didn't have an answer.
A hole in the wall.
Look at him. He looks literally insane over there. I mean, literally. You sound insane. You look insane.
I'm not sure why Jesus isn't enough to protect him from whatever he hears by having his face covered. Who's taught him that? CP? You following CP in that regard, in that cowardly regard? Not saying you're a coward, but I think the act is rather cowardly if we're all people of God. Why are you fearful? We should be the one fearful.
Ronnie Pena, a question, and pay close attention, Devin. Ronnie Pena, have there been times that you've come into the show and I say, Assalamu alaikum, Ronnie, how are you today?
Yes.
Absolutely. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So Kenny just said, has there been times when he comes into the show where he says Assalamu alaikum? So Kenny has just left Islam because according to his prophet, they are not supposed to say peace or give the salutation of peace to non-Muslims. They know this. These are Muslims that are practicing taqiyya. It's simple as that. They are practicing taqiyya and they are being deceitful because, just like their prophet, the father of lies is Satan. So they following after the example of Satan.
Why are you all filibustering? You know why? Because I'm about to read it to you right now.
It's simply a greeting of peace.
Yeah, your rig show. You don't want me. You are afraid because you know what I'm about to do. I'm about to read from the Hadith. You about to get.
We should
about to get busted live.
Really?
He really.
I'm about to read from the Hadith to show you that you about to get busted.
Why does he keep saying that? Is that his catchphrase?
That's Christian Prince says it.
Oh, okay.
That's where you got it at.
Never heard that before.
You're making jokes, but you're not addressing.
No, you
address what I'm saying, Kareem.
I'm not helping you with your show. You need to pay me for that. You coming over here to make a show of our show.
Yeah, we've allowed you.
Notice Kareem said I needed to pay him to come on his show, but it's funny, and I'm happy he said that because I just did a video. My last video I did, which shows that Muhammad was a con artist because it was a group of Muslims who they did a ruqya for some other Arabs, but they wouldn't do it until the other group of Arabs had paid them with the flock of sheep. And then they went back and told Muhammad, because they was like, should we take the payment? Is it right? And then they went and told Muhammad, and Muhammad gave them the okay, and he asked for some of the payment. So what he is saying falls right in line with his con artist, scam artist, false prophet Muhammad, who charged people for religion. So basically, he's just following the example of his false prophet. So he just got himself, jokes on you, kid.
Rant on this platform, right? So you misquoted the story, you misrepresented the story, and you made the false claim that the hadith relating the first revelation in the cave of Hira does not mention that an angel...
You are a liar. I can read it to you right now. It says Namus. It does not say angel. You are a liar. You are a liar. I can read it to you right now. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm about to read it right now.
He used to kick basketball when he was...
Can you see that? Can you read that? Or are you illiterate? Can you read that? Or are you illiterate? This is from Sahih Bukhari. This is the Arabic text. If you can't read the Arabic, please read the translation. What Malik specifically used. Can you read it?
It does not say angel. That is a lie. It's a mistranslation.
First paragraph.
It's a lie. It says now.
The word angel is here. You see, Malik, Mim, Lam, Kaf, Malik. Malik means what? Malak, sorry, Malak. What does it mean? Malak is the singular form of...
So what he did, the Muslim, he brought me a hadith that was not the hadith about the cave of Hira incident. When Muhammad was in the cave, when that demon came and squeezed him 3 times. The Muslim who put a hadith up in the screen, he did not put the hadith that I was speaking about up in the screen. The one that I was speaking about, we'll show you later, which says nothing about an angel being in the cave with Muhammad. But we'll get into that in a few moments.
Malaika. Malak means angel. Similar word with the Hebrew. See? I'm sorry, sir. You have been refuted.
Read what it says. It says, the messenger of Allah.
Now I'm saying read what it says. I'm reading the hadith that's dealing with the cave of Hira. That Muslim, Abdul, he brought up another hadith that had nothing to do with the cave of Hira incident.
May peace be upon him, then inform him what... He don't want me to...
He muted me. He
don't want me to read because he's afraid. Kenny, you are afraid because you know your prophet does not have any valid argument to... He was not visited by no angel, and you know it.
Let me remind your subscribers, as you're gonna for sure download this on your platform.
So that's enough of that. So now let's go into the points that I was making. As you see, they never addressed my question. They don't have an answer. So what I want you people to know, whenever you're dealing with Muslims, and you'll even notice like on YouTube, you'll notice how the imams and the sheikhs, they don't like to go into the cave of Hira incident because this causes a lot of problems for Muslims, because nowhere does it say that Gabriel formally introduced himself to Muhammad. That creates a problem. They are going by the claim of Waraka bin Nawfal, which is another problem, because if Waraka bin Nawfal was not at the scene, then how can he say what was at the scene? That's like someone bringing a witness into the courtroom who didn't witness a murder, but saying that this person is a witness. How can you bring somebody as evidence who wasn't even on scene? That doesn't even make sense. So by them doing that, basically, by their actions of doing that, they are saying that Waraka is a prophet because he is speaking upon something that he didn't see, but yet he is validating it. So basically, they saying Waraka, this man who wasn't even on the scene, he can validate our prophet, but he wasn't even on the scene. So these are the type of things that they don't want to deal with, because it just busts their whole program. But let's go into also, we're going to show you tonight how Muhammad was actually having a dream, and the hadith that Aisha narrated, it also attests to what I'm saying, that he was actually having a dream when this was taking place. And that's going to get him busted as well. We about to show you. Let's get right into it without further ado. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into it. Now, Muhammad's first encounter with Gabriel. We're going to get into this cave of Hira thing, this incident. Now, what you're looking at right now is from the biography of Muhammad by Ibn Ashaq. Okay? And in this biography is going to detail how Muhammad was actually dreaming when he was so-called visited by the so-called angel Gabriel. Now, let's read it. This is from Ibn Ashaq. When it was the night on which God honored him with his mission and showed mercy on his servants, thereby Gabriel brought him the command of God. He came to me, said the apostle of God, while I was asleep, with a coverlet of brocade whereon was some writing, and said, read. Let's read that again. He came to me, said the apostle of God, while I was asleep, with a coverlet of brocade whereon was some writing, and said, read. I said, what shall I read? He pressed me with it so tightly that I thought it was death. Then he let me go and said, read. I said, what shall I read? He pressed me with it again so that I thought it was death. Then he let me go and said, read. I said, what shall I read? He pressed me with it the third time so that I thought it was death, and said, read. I said, what then shall I read? And this I said only to deliver myself from him, lest he should do the same to me again. He said, read in the name of thy Lord who created man of blood coagulated, Read, thy Lord is the most beneficent, who taught by the pen, taught that which they knew not unto men. So I read it, and he departed from me, and I awoke from my sleep, and it was though these words were written on my heart. So as you see, Muhammad was having a nightmare in this dream that he was having. He was terrified. He thought it was death. And in Islam, that proves that this demon was not no angel sent from God, because in Islam, death is supposed to be slayed on Judgment Day. Death in Islam is an actual living being that's supposed to be slayed. And that's what Muhammad thought it was. He thought it was death. See, normal people with intelligence, when you hear death, you understand that death means the end of life. When someone dies, death, life, death. Death is the end of life. But in Islam, death is an actual creature. It's an actual entity that will be slayed. And check how funny this is. Death is going to be put to death. If death is going to be put to death, then how is death death? It don't even make sense. So that means Allah is death, but that's a different subject for a different day and a different time. But Muhammad, he was thinking that this was death. He did not have the slightest inclination that this was an angel from the Most High. This did not register to him as any kind of benevolent being. In the mind of Muhammad, this was a malevolent creature all day long. He was terrified. He even goes on to say that he only complied with the angel after the third squeezing because he wanted to deliver himself from this angel. So this is letting you know that this is not no holy creature that this false satanic prophet is dealing with. This is not no benevolent creature right here. This is a demonic being because he is trying to flee from the grip of this thing. This thing is terrifying him. Okay? So he finally reads, and then it says, so I read it, and he departed from me. He departed from me, and I awoke from my sleep. And it was as though these words was written on my heart. So he was terrified. He woke up, and Muhammad was so terrified from this incident that he thought he was demon possessed, because we also have another excerpt from the biography of Muhammad from Ibn Ashaq, Surat Razul Allah, page 106. Now, he was suicidal. Muhammad was suicidal. Now read. Now, none of God's creatures was more hateful to me than an ecstatic poet or a man possessed. I could not even look at them. I thought, whoa, am I a poet or possessed? Never shall the Quraysh say this of me. I will go to the top of the mountain and throw myself down that I may kill myself and gain rest. Does this sound like a man who was visited by an angel from God? This man was suicidal. This is clearly a demonic visitation. This is clearly the symptoms of someone who was bipolar or maniac, someone who was suicidal. When you are suicidal, you are not in your right frame of mind. This man was clearly suicidal, clearly demon possessed like he thought he was. So, but that's just the beginning, because we're about to show you We about to show you, we about to get him busted again. In front of you, read, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. The Prophet said, if any one of you sees a dream that he likes, then it is from Allah, and he should thank Allah for it and narrate it to others. But if he sees something else, i.e. a dream that he dislikes, then it is from Satan, and he should seek refuge with Allah from its evil, and he should not mention it to anybody, for it will not harm him. So Muhammad gets his own self busted, okay? Because clearly the hadith, the surah of Ibn Ashaq says that he was in a dream state when he was visited by this angel, by this demon, okay? Now, here in the hadith, it says that if someone has a dream that they dislike, then it's from Satan. Muhammad disliked that dream because he said it felt like death. So anytime you feeling something that feels like death, you don't like it. If he liked it, he wouldn't have said what he said right here. He said, read. What shall I read? He pressed me with it the third time so that I thought it was death and said, read. I said, what then shall I read? Even though he couldn't read, he got tired of getting squeezed. So he was basically complying with this demon. And he said, what then shall I read? And this I said only to deliver myself. And this I said only to deliver myself from him, lest he should do the same to me again. So what does that prove? He disliked it. Now let's scroll back to what he said in the hadith, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. The Prophet said, if any one of you sees a dream that he likes, then it is from Allah, and he should thank Allah for it and narrate it to others. But if he sees something else, a dream that he dislikes, then it is from Satan. So clearly, this visitation is from Satan. But that's just a little bit. We about to go in some more. Let's go to Sunnah.com. Let's read what it says. Now, I don't want you to forget the hadith that I read, that if anybody has a dream that they dislike, it is from Satan, and they should seek refuge from that dream in Allah. We're going to read this hadith narrated by Aisha, and we're going to see if Muhammad, did he seek refuge in Allah like he told his followers in the other hadith? We about to get him busted again. All right. Narrated Aisha. The commencement of the divine inspiration to Allah's messenger was in the form of good, righteous dreams in his sleep. Boom. So that correlates, it coincides with the biography of Ibn Ashaq, which tells you that he was dreaming. So this is Sahih Bukhari narrated by Aisha. The commencement of the divine inspiration to Allah's messenger was in the form of good, righteous dreams in his sleep. He never had a dream, but that it came true like bright daylight. He used to go in seclusion in the cave of Hira, where he used to worship Allah alone continuously for many days and nights. He used to take with him the journey food for that stay and then come back to his wife Khadijah to take his food likewise again for another period to stay, till suddenly the truth descended upon him while he was in the cave of Hira. The angel came to him in it and asked him to read. The prophet replied, I do not know how to read. The angel caught me forcefully and pressed me so hard that I could not bear it anymore. He then released me and again asked me to read. And I replied, I do not know how to read. Whereupon he caught me again and pressed me a second time till I could not bear it anymore. He then released me and asked me again to read, but again I replied, I do not know how to read, or what shall I read? Thereupon he caught me for the third time and pressed me and then released me and said, read in the name of your Lord who has created all that exists, has created man from a clot. Read, and your Lord is most generous up to that which he knew not. Then Allah's messenger returned with the inspiration, his neck muscles twitching with terror, till he entered upon Khadijah and said, cover me, cover me. They covered him till his fear was over, and then he said, oh Khadijah, what is wrong with me? Now, what's wrong with that, what I just read? What did the other hadith say that you should do if you had a terrifying dream? Muhammad said, Muhammad is a hypocrite. In the other hadith, he said that if you had a terrifying dream, you should seek refuge in Allah. Did he seek refuge in Allah? No, he didn't. Who did he seek refuge in? He seek refuge in his wife. Let's read it again. Then Allah's messenger returned with the inspiration, his neck muscles twitching with terror, till he entered upon Khadijah and said, cover me, cover me. And they even put exclamation points because he was very ecstatic when he said it. They covered him till his fear was over. And then he said, oh Khadijah, what is wrong with me? He didn't know what was wrong with him. He thought he had a problem. He did not feel like he was visited by some godly being. He said, what is wrong with me? He felt as he had a mental problem. He said, what is wrong with me? Then he told her everything that had happened and said, I fear that something may happen to me. He was fearful. What does the Bible say? God does not give us a spirit of fear, but he gives us a sound mind. Does this sound like a man who has a sound mind? Or does this sound like a man who has a fearful mind? A man who is questioning his mental stability? Well, you be the judge. Where in the Bible did Gabriel ever come before a prophet and he didn't assure them that he was sent by God? He always greeted them with peace be unto you. He made them feel comfortable. That's what an angel of God would do. What kind of messenger is sent to a person and they don't let you know where they're coming from? They don't introduce themselves. That's just like the UPS showing up to your house, knocking on your door. They don't tell you who they are. they don't have a uniform on, letting you know they work for the UPS, you would be like, who in the world is this? Well, that's the same way Muhammad was feeling. Because this thing that came to him was a demon. It was not from God. So let's get that clear. Okay? He said, "Oh, Khadijah, what is wrong with me?" Then he told her everything that had happened and said, "I fear that something may happen to me." Khadijah said, "Never, but have the glad tidings, for by Allah, Allah will never disgrace you as you keep good reactions with your kith and kin. Speak the truth, help the poor and the destitute, serve your guests generously, and assist the deserving, calamity afflicted ones." Khadijah then accompanied him to her cousin, Waraka bin Nofal bin Asid bin Abdul Uzza bin Qusay. Waraka was the son of her paternal uncle, i.e. her father's brother. Okay, we can skip through a lot of this. Who during the, Waraka was the son of the, anyway, he became a Christian and used to write the Arabic writing and used to write of the Gospels in Arabic as much as Allah wished him to write. He was an old man and had lost his eyesight. Khadijah said to him, "Oh, my cousin, listen to the story of your nephew." Waraka asked, "Oh, my nephew, what have you seen?" The prophet described whatever he had seen. Waraka said, "This is the Namus. This is the Namus." And notice they even have in parentheses, i.e., Gabriel, the angel who keeps the secrets. You know why they had to do that? Because Waraka never said that it was an angel. And Namus, and we're going to go there and we're going to look it up. Namus means the Torah. Waraka said this is the same Namus whom Allah had sent to Moses. Then he said, "I wish I were young and could live up to the time when your people would turn you out." Allah's messenger asked, "Will they turn me out?" Waraka replied in the affirmative and said, "Never did a man come with something similar to what you have brought, but was treated with hostility. If I should remain alive till the day when you will be turned out, then I would support you strongly." But after a few days, Waraka died, and the divine inspiration was also paused for a while, and the prophet became so sad, as we have heard, that he intended several times to throw himself from the tops of high mountains. And every time he went up the top of a mountain in order to throw himself down, Gabriel would appear before him and say, "O Muhammad, you are indeed Allah's messenger in truth," whereupon his heart would become quiet and he would calm down and would return home. And whenever the period of the coming of the inspiration used to become long, he would do as before. But when he would reach to the top of the mountain, Gabriel would appear before him and say to him what he had said before. Okay. Now, as you see, now let's get some things straight. It's a few problems that we already see. Now, we've already demonstrated that this so-called inspiration took place in a dream. As you see, validated by the hadith of Aisha, which coincides with the biography of Ibn Ashad. We've already shown that Muhammad said in the hadith that if you had a dream that you didn't like, that it came from Satan. We already showed and proved that he was very terrified. In the other hadith, he said that if you had a terrible dream, that you should seek refuge in Allah. And we see that Muhammad is a hypocrite because he didn't seek refuge in Allah. As you see, he sought refuge in Khadijah. He said, "Oh Khadijah, what is wrong with me? Cover me, cover me." And they covered him till his fear was over. So he didn't seek refuge in Allah like he said. So he is a hypocrite, and he didn't even follow his own teachings because he himself didn't even seek refuge in Allah. Okay? Now, the next thing, Warwicker was not even on the scene. Warwicker said this is the same Namus. Namus is the Torah, the laws, the 631 laws, statutes, and commandments that was handed to Moses on Mount Sinai. The problem is the Torah was handed to Moses, who was a Jew, for Jewish people. So why would the Torah be handed to Muhammad, the 631 laws, statutes, and commandments that were sent down by Yahweh and handed to Moses to govern the Jewish people? Why would that be sent to Muhammad, and Muhammad was not a Jew and he was an Arab, didn't even speak the Jewish tongue? So why would he be given the Torah? So according to what Warwicker told him, it was a namus. Warwicker did not say that it was an angel. And when you look at namus, when you look at the original Arabic, it does not say angel. Warwicker did not say angel. He said namus, which is the Torah, was handed down to to Muhammad. So whenever you see any other reference in this hadith that's talking about Gabriel, that's Muslims inserting that is Gabriel. But as you see, they are only doing that because of the false claim that Warwicker said that it was Gabriel, but that was never said. So whenever you see them like talking about Gabriel in other parts of this, they have no foundation to stand upon to say that. They don't have no source to say that it was Gabriel, because Gabriel did not formally introduce himself. And as you see, Warwicker never said that it was Gabriel. He said Namus. The Muslims put i.e. Gabriel, the angel who keeps the secrets. Okay? So that gets them busted. And we're going to show you some more problems. Okay? When Muhammad came up out of that state of terror, okay? Let's read it. Then Allah's messenger returned with the inspiration. But even before we go there, let's go to this part right here. Okay? He used to go in seclusion to the cave of Hira, where he used to worship Allah alone continuously for many days and nights. What's the problem with that you already see? What's the problem? The problem with that is during the cave of Hira escapades or retreats that Muhammad would take, this was before Islam. This was before the incident when he was told to read. This was before Muslims were claiming that Allah said, worship me alone, okay? During this time when Muhammad was in the cave of Hira, the 360 idols of the Kaaba were still being stored in the Kaaba. During this time, Allah, or Habul is another name for Allah, was the chief god of the Kaaba. In and around Mecca during this time, on the peninsula of Arabia, there were many Kaabas, and each Kaaba had its chief god. The Kaaba in Mecca, the chief god of that Kaaba happened to be Allah. So during the time when Muhammad was in his cave, who was he worshiping other than Allah, the chief pagan god who had the three daughters, Al-Alat, Al-Uzza, and Manat, along with the other 360 idols that were being stored in the Kaaba at the time, along with the black stone, which also existed pre-Islam. Okay? So it's a lot of problems in this. So Muslims have to answer this question. Who was Muhammad praying to? Because the only Allah he knew was the same version of Allah that his father knew. His father was called Abdullah, which means slave of Allah. But according to Muhammad, both his father and his mother went to hell. So if his father went to hell and he was worshiping Allah and he was a slave of Allah, that means his father was worshiping what? A pagan Allah, because he went to hell. You see, Allah was the God of the pagans even before Islam. So even before Muhammad had a Quran, even before he had a so-called visitation from Gabriel in the cave of Hira, guess what? He was worshiping Allah. He was worshiping the same pagan God. Okay? So that's another key point to get the Muslims busted. Okay, then when he came out of the cave, let's read. Then Allah's messenger returned with the inspiration, his neck muscles twitching with terror, till he entered upon Khadijah and said, cover me, cover me. They covered him till the fear was over, and then he said, O Khadijah, what is wrong with me? Then he told her everything that had happened and said, I fear that something may happen to me. Khadijah said, never, but have the glad tidings, for by Allah, Allah will never disgrace you as you keep good reactions with your kith and kin. Speak the truth. Okay, here's my point. Khadijah is saying that he said that he feared that something may happen to him. Khadijah said, never, but have the glad tidings, for by Allah, Allah. So if this is before Islam, what kind of Allah is Khadijah saying that will never disgrace on Muhammad? She said, Allah will never disgrace you. The only Allah they knew was the Allah of the Kaaba. Khadijah didn't have no Quran. She didn't know no monotheism version of Islam. So she is saying that this Allah that has the three daughters, the Allah of the Kaaba, the Allah of the 360 idols, this Allah will not reject you. She didn't even know what Muhammad had seen yet. She knew nothing about worship Allah alone. She knew nothing about that, but yet she is saying and affirming to Muhammad that Allah would not disgrace him. So Muslims have to answer, what Allah, what version of Allah is Khadijah speaking about? Another point that just shatters Islam and gets them busted and proves that this Allah that Muhammad was worshiping up in that cave was a pagan Allah. So the whole point is not only the point that Warwick never said that it was an angel, because he said Namus. Along with that, Muslims have to answer the question of what Allah is this? It's the pagan Allah. Khadija is speaking about a pagan Allah. She didn't know no monotheistic Allah. She knew nothing about that. This was before the Quran, okay? Now, not only that, she sent him to Warwick, okay? And it says that Warwick was a Christian who used to write the Arabic writing and used to write of the Gospels in Arabic. So basically, Warwick would translate the Gospel in Aramaic and he would translate it into the Arabic, okay? As much as Allah wished him to write. So again, she is saying, as much as Allah wished him to write. So this is another contradiction. How can Allah, before Islam, the Allah of a pagan Kaaba, inspire Warwick to write the gospel and translate it from Aramaic into Arabic before Muhammad even had the visitation in the cave of Hira? Do you understand what I'm saying? How can a pagan god, if Warwick is writing the Aramaic into the Arabic, translating the Aramaic gospel into the Arabic, even before Muhammad had the visitation in the cave of Hira, how can you say that this Allah was the true God, not attributed to any idols and anything, when this was before the time of Islam, when Allah was known as the God who had 3 daughters, the God of the 360 idols? So how can a God of 360 idols and 303 daughters inspire Warwick, who was a Christian, to translate the gospel from Aramaic to Arabic, when that gospel would defy the worship of any God other than Yahweh? So how can a pagan God tell a man to translate verses that would get the pagan God busted? You see how none of this makes sense? And how could Muhammad himself be in a cave worshiping a pagan God, but receiving a true translation? None of it makes sense. And it just gets them busted all around the board. You know what I'm saying? Because you have the mentioning of Allah by Khadija when the only Allah she knew was the pagan version. So that proves that this Allah before the time of Islam is a pagan Allah. And even after the cave incident, it's still the same Allah. The only thing Muhammad did, he kept the same pagan Allah, but he destroyed the other idols. Because Muhammad was trying to mimic the Jews' religion. He was trying to mimic what the Jews believed in, and he was trying to be the prophet for the Arabs, because he was envious that the Jews had their prophets, they had their belief, they had their Torah. He wanted to be that same thing for the Arab people. He just went about it the wrong way. He did it deceitfully through lying and by the works of Satan. So all of this that I'm saying, it gets Islam busted. It gets Islam busted. This cave visitation was not from Gabriel. Nowhere does it say Gabriel formally introduced himself to Muhammad. And not only that, we showed you in the other hadith how Muhammad said that if you have a dream that you dislike that is from Satan, we proved that the dream was from Satan because he disliked it. He didn't seek refuge in Allah. He seek refuge in Khadijah. And along with all of the other points we made, this proved that this Muhammad is a prophet of Satan. And this concludes this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Muslims, turn away from that false god. Turn away from that satanic prophet called Muhammad. He was visited by a demon in the cave of Hira. We have showed you the evidence. We showed you the Sirah of Ibn Ashaq, showing you that it was a dream. We showed you that your prophet said that if you had a dream that you dislike, that is from Satan. We showed you that your prophet disliked the dream. We showed you that your prophet felt as if he had mental problems because he said, "What is wrong with me?" He wasn't sure about his mental state. He was fearful. He was trembling because he was visited by a demon. This was not an angel from God. This false Gabriel that Muslims have concocted, he acts nothing like the Gabriel of the Bible, who whenever he visited a prophet, he would always give them the greeting of peace to assure them that he was sent from the Most High. And with that, I would like to conclude this video. Thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments below. And until we do this again, this is the False Prophet channel where we get Islam busted and the Prophet of Islam busted. And with that, I'd like to say, God bless all of you. And until we do this again, this is Brother Jacob and the False Prophet channel signing out.